Do you expect that when the Democrats take over the chairmanship of all these important committees, you're going to get hit with a blizzard of subpoenas on everything from the Russia investigation to your cell phone use to your tax returns?
Ready? Then you're going to, if that happens, then we're going to do the same thing, and government comes to a halt, and I would blame them. If they do that, then it's just all it is a warlike posture.
Not even a thinly veiled warning to the Democrats there, roughly 12 hours after their party regained control of the House. It came during the president's longest solo news conference to date, 87 minutes. He also tried to paint last night's election results as a big win.
I'll be honest. I thought it was a very close to complete victory. I really believe that we have a chance to get along very well with the Democrats.
Despite that, right there, sounding eager to work with the opposition and offering support to Nancy Pelosi as the next House Speaker. He had placed a call to her last night. There was another obvious message. He'll go after any Democrats who come after him.
They want to do things. You know, I keep hearing about investigations. They can play that game, but we can play it better. Because we have a thing called the United States Senate. They can look at us, and then we can look at them. And it'll go back and forth, and it'll probably be very good for me politically.
That was part of our day at the White House, and here to talk about it with us tonight, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, and Jill Colvin, White House reporter for the Associated Press. Jill, are they putting up ramparts in the West Wing? Is Sonny going to the mattresses? Is this for real, and is this just going to be what it's like?
I think that this is very much a preview of what we were going to see going forward. I mean, this performance from the president, it's hard to know where to begin because there was just so much here.
Oh, we've got more of it, too.
From the president, I mean, going out there, claiming that he had near complete victory, suggesting at one point that he'd have to think about whether it was better for him to have lost the House than to have won by a couple of seats, to standing up there and actually going after, mocking by name, a number of House Republican members who lost their races because he said they hadn't been aligned closely enough with him. There was just so much to unpack in there. But this, what you're talking about here, going after Democrats, really putting up this threat, saying, if you go after me, we're going to war. I'm not going to be working with you, and I'm going to blame you for not working for me. I think it's very much a preview of what we're going to see in the months coming forward.
Peter Baker, let me take you back hours writing about Jeff Sessions and specifically the topic of loyalty, which piqued my interest because on issues so important to this president, like immigration, Sessions was way out there in front. He was beyond a loyal puppy dog of a member of this cabinet. So it leads you to believe, because this was predicated just on Russia, what's the worry there?
Well, the worry, of course, is that an attorney general who should have at least some autonomy to oversee investigations that involve people close to the president will, in fact, actually be an agent of the president. That's what President Trump has made very clear he wants in that job. He hasn't bothered to disguise that. He said up front again and again and again that the reason he wanted Jeff Sessions to be there was to oversee the Russian investigation and protect the president from, what he calls a witch hunt and a hoax. The fact that Jeff Sessions recused himself was the cardinal sin that could never be forgiven. So we have to assume that Whitaker, now the acting attorney general, understands that and understands what his mission is as the president sees it. And how he will respond to that is something we will obviously be covering, I think, in these days and weeks to come.
Jill Colvin mentioned things got a little wild at the White House today. We've put together some, but not all of it in a montage. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either. When you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people.
You called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president.
It's such a racist
there
question.
Are some people.
Again, just some of the greatest hits of what we witnessed. And obviously that first clip, Jim Acosta from CNN, a young White House intern trying to grab the mic from him, has tonight resulted in the press pass of Jim Acosta being pulled at the White House. He can no longer get on the White House grounds. And in their statement as a justification, they said that Jim Acosta placed his hands on a young woman just trying to do her job as a White House intern. And they stand by their decision. Jill Colvin, I did see Joe Lockhart, former Clinton-era press secretary, say tonight he was complimenting CNN on their restraint because they have not redone their coverage. They're not leading all hours with their own correspondent, Jim Acosta. They're staying on the story, which is the firing of Sessions and the result of the midterms, just in case this is a giant distraction.
Yeah, when the story broke, I think Anderson Cooper was just about to start. And, I think a lot of us tuned in to see what CNN's response would be. And they'd waited until well into the show to have Jim Acosta come and talk about what had happened. I think that's an acknowledgement of the fact that we know, look, this is an administration that has long had a very tense relationship with the press. Even during the campaign, the president, then candidate, was revoking reporters' press credentials, banning numerous outlets from the Washington Post to Politico from covering his events. But I think what you're seeing here is also an acknowledgement that the president often uses these fights that he picks with the media to distract from certain storylines that he doesn't want being covered. And what is the news tonight? It is his decision to ask for Jeff Sessions' resignation. And the White House knows that if they push these buttons and they go after the press is going to react and respond, as you've seen tonight, and that will change the direction of the coverage.
Peter Baker, I've been a hard pass holder twice in my life. The first, dare I say, as a White House intern in the late 70s. Second time, mid-90s, as White House correspondent. You've been a hard pass holder for many years. It is difficult to remember seeing one pulled, losing privileges to come onto the White House grounds for something like this.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I got my first hard pass 22 years ago, and I don't remember any time that a reporter has had his pass or her pass pulled because of the way they do their job. This is a new step. It's one that's obviously very troubling. And look, I think Jill's exactly right. This is what they want. If they think Jim Acosta is so unfair to them, why did the president call on him? They called on him because they wanted to have the confrontation. They want to have this be the scenes that people see, and they say, "See, he's standing up to the unfair press." Why did he go after Yamiche Alcindor, who did nothing but ask a very legitimate, very serious, very sober question of him, and he didn't even wait for her to finish before he starts calling her a racist? So this is what he wants. This is what this White House wants. And I think the problem for the press is we have to be careful not to play into it. The story shouldn't be about us. It should be about Jeff Sessions. It should be about the President of the United States. It should be about the elections from yesterday. And instead, we're talking about this kind of an action. But it is the first action that they've taken that I remember that directly punishes a reporter. Since taking office, there was one or two other times, I think, where they kind of came close to that. They excluded a reporter from one particular pool spray and so forth. This is a big deal, unfortunately, and it is, in fact, going to be something we talk about in the days to come when we have other things we should be.
And let's say a word on behalf of this White House intern in question. She very gamely had to deal with a highly uncomfortable circumstance. She did not come to work at her unpaid job this morning thinking she was going to end up part of a news story. She tries politely at first, and then she goes in to grab at that microphone, putting her in an awfully uncomfortable position as well. Well, tomorrow, yes, Peter?
No, it's an awkward situation all around. No question. She didn't do anything. She was trying to do her job. But you can clearly see from that video that Jim did not put hands on her the way they are implying. He somehow, rudely assaulted her. He didn't. He specifically said, "Pardon me, ma'am." He was not, you could say whatever you want about his behavior, but the truth of the matter is the White House shouldn't get to decide shouldn't get to decide who covers them based on whether they like a reporter's behavior or not. That's not the way it works.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.